Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Celtic Way evening briefing, are we going to call it? TCW React, one of the two. I always say I'm going to call it something different, but I always just go with the headline with what's on. TCW reacts to Rodgers' pre-match press conference, as well as a bit on Callum McGregor as well. My name is Ryan McGinley, at the Ryan McGinley on the X handle, joined by Tony Haggerty, as always, Haggerty10 on the X handle. Tony, how you doing this afternoon / evening? It's definitely evening time now. How are you doing this evening?
I'm very well. I always like press conference. It's great. Just listening to the manager and Callum McGregor and doing what we do, deciphering it, and Q&A stuff, getting up every answer down word for word. So it's always good. Kind of look at it and you think, right, okay, what's the bus points from today and the takeaways from today? Biggest takeaway, Ryan, for me is I can't believe I'm astonished that Callum McGregor won his first ever Player of the Month award.
Doesn't sound right.
He's been bossing Scottish football for years. It's just like, wow.
Crazy.
I mean, and I've been on the voting panel for these things, Ryan. Before as a journalist. It's just like I find that incredible. I mean, I'm sure I voted for it before, maybe been shouted down, but I think the manager was equally surprised, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. You could see it you could hear it in the audio and see it in the video that he was visually surprised at the fact that Cal McGregor hadn't done it, especially and amongst some of the really good spells he's had at Celtic under Rodgers, under Lennon for a spell as well, under Postecoglou and then back under Rodgers. He's finally got that recognition that he deserves, and we will go on to talk about him. Just before we get started, guys, if you want to support our work, just by joining our YouTube members channel, it's only £2.99 a month. You'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function. If you subscribed today, you would have got my video with Hal from the Chef United Ways video 12 or so hours early. I put it out early in the morning, or yesterday evening, this morning. So that was available to everybody for quite a bit of time before it went out to the general public. So if you want to support us just that little bit more, £2.99 a month, press that join button if you're on desktop and become a member of the Celtic Way. Tony, it was Cal McGregor, August's Player of the Month, 2 screamers in the month of August. The goal against Rangers obviously doesn't count because that was in September time. Maybe he's making a run for the September goal of the month. No, not goal of the month, but Player of the Month as well. It was a good press conference from Callum McGregor, a much better speaker than what he was a few years ago. I think he's really grown into that role of being the captain. He's learned off of players such as Scott Brown, etc., learned from managers as well in the way to conduct himself with the media. But a good press conference from Callum McGregor. What was your sort of main takeaway of that, apart from the fact that he got his first ever Player of the Month award?
I think he was baffled by that as well, wasn't he? And also he was talking about the fact that it was kind of business as usual and trying to pick up from where they left off, wasn't it? And the fact that he had gotten an extended break. He was asked about that, wasn't he? How was that for you? And he was like, well, okay, good to get 2 or 3 days off and spin. Doesn't normally happen that way, but straight back into it. And when he came back and the manager said he looked good and he looked in shape. So it's, I do like listening to the captain. Said before, he's everything that you want. He's a representative of your club, both on and off the pitch. You just get the feeling that the guys are bursting to get back in and pick it up from where they left off. And obviously, he had a career first as well. Not only the Player of the Month, but he scored for 3 consecutive league games, Ryan. He's never ever did that in his career before. So, manager saying he's hoping that he can continue in that rich goal scoring vein of form, but you get the feeling that Callum's up for it as well. He's going to have a shot at goal tomorrow, isn't he? At some point, he's going to get within range and he's going to have a crack, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's as confident as he'll ever be, and as I say, he's that calm. He exudes calmness and confidence, Ryan, not in an arrogant or a cocky way, but I think he's a player who knows he's at the peak of his powers and he is a pivotal player in this Brendan Rodgers machine.
He's the one constant, isn't he, in that midfield? He's going to be the one constant in the midfield throughout the season. I think there's only going to be 2 spots that are really up for grabs over the course, apart from maybe a wee bit of rotation here and there, maybe in the League Cup. against Falkirk. But then again, you wouldn't bet against Callum McGregor starting in that game either. That's just the way that he plays. He gets his breaks and international breaks, which is great to see, and he deserves that downtime. He was talking about the international break, saying it was different, not going away with Scotland, but he did enjoy it all the same. He missed a bit of the Poland game. He was probably the same as me in the fact that he missed some of that game as well. Maybe better
Quite a
off
frank
missing
admission,
some.
that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just goes to show you that he is actually taking the time to take time
He
off.
quantified that by saying he wanted to switch off, didn't he? Before people say how quickly they forget.
I'm totally fine with that.
He missed the first half an hour, he said, and then he watched the rest. He said they were unlucky not to pick up points. It was a good performance, and they could be proud of that. But I think he was taking the kind of, as we say, unplugging from the matrix pretty seriously, Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good for Celtic, and it's Celtic's gain. Brendan Rodgers was talking about the fact that it was Celtic's gain as well, that certain players aren't playing for their international countries, even though they're travelling halfway across the world to feature for their international countries. More on that later, I guess, when we're talking about Hatate in Japan. But just on Callum McGregor, he's talking about Stephen Naismith as well. He obviously played against Stephen Naismith when he was at Hearts, played alongside him in Scotland, saying he's a calm manager, unlike what he was like on the pitch. But he seems like a captain that's really happy with where his game is at the moment, and he's just really enjoying being part of this new look midfield that Celtic have got going on, whether that's Hatate and Engels and Bernardo, even if it's Odin Holm that comes in, Luke McCowan that comes in. He's the one constant in this team, and he's going to be for the rest of the season, isn't he?
You get the feeling that whatever team shape Celtic are playing tomorrow, and whatever three in that midfield, they've already spoken about just picking it up from where they left off and hitting the refresh, recalibrate button, call it what you like. But I get the feeling that Callum's already said, right, guys, you know what to do. It's just a continuation of what happened up until the Rangers game, and then we just we step on it again. We go again. We've had a rest. We're all back together now. The band's reassembled, as they say. But I think Callum's that kind of, as you say, that pivotal figure that just says, right, guys, because he's the one that everybody says sets the standards in training. So today was the first day back. We found that out, didn't we? Today was the first day back for everybody.
Yep.
And I'm sure Callum would have spoken to them and said, right, they probably know the team, won't they? This is what we're doing. This is the way we're going about it. And nothing's really changed in terms of that. What they've been doing since the start of the season. Or as Brendan Rodgers say, what they've been doing since pre-season. And I quite like that. There's a lot of, despite the fact that there's continuity there in terms of the way they go about their business and the way they work, I think even if any of the new guys come in, it won't disrupt it too much. And I think it'll be pretty seamless, Ryan. Now, my team is not any of the new guys coming in. I think they'll come on and feature after an hour or so to give them game time, because the manager, as I say, this one will have a game plan for Wednesday night. And I think it's imperative that these guys get minutes on their part, because we'll approach it a bit differently on Wednesday night, a European game as opposed to a domestic game. So, yeah, but I think Callum's the man he's the go-to man, isn't he? And I think the message is pretty simple. It ain't broke. It doesn't need fixing. But if it's tweaked, so be it. But you know what you're about. The manager's banged on about that culture of winning, didn't he? And spoke about the three things that made Callum McGregor what he is. He's super fit, and he's got that intensity in his game. And
yeah, he's just a
born winner,
isn't he?
Yeah, so, and I think that transmits. I think Callum transmits that to the rest of the players, and they listen to him, and they listen to him big time.
Yeah, I was actually just going to bring this up ever so quickly and ever so slightly as well. Tony, I'm just going to bring this up because I think it's a good way to segue into talking about the team and Brendan Rodgers' press conference. So this is the team that you went for tomorrow. It's the same team as I think it's the same 11 that played against Rangers. Am I right in saying?
Yeah.
So
yes,
you're including Rio Hatate in there, despite him doing all of that travelling back. He's a consummate professional at the end of the day, but you're going for Maeda and Kuhn on either side, Kyogo leading the line, Bernardo keeping his place. Although the one thing I'd probably change with that is the fact that Bernardo is the furthest forward midfielder. I think he'll play in the 8 role and Hatate in the 10 if that is to be the team. But is that the team that, that's the team that you're locking in? You said that for your predicted lineups.
Yeah, I think as well that, bearing in mind, Hatate did all that travelling and he didn't play. I think if you were to rotate him from that squad tomorrow, I think he would feel that he's done something wrong and his confidence levels would dip. He's done nothing wrong. Yeah.
Rodgers talks about that as well.
There has to be some man management here from Rodgers, in terms of lifting the guy's head and saying, look, I think he alluded to the fact that Japan have got a very strong national side, but he has travelled thousands of miles, Ryan, and he's not kicked a ball in anger. And I'm playing Hatate because I think he'll be frustrated and he'll want to take it out on somebody, take it out in Hearts, get that frustration out on the pitch where you're best, and he'll be fresh because he hasn't played. I know travel can, do things to you, but these players are used to it. These players they've been doing it all their career, and so I don't see that travel affects you too much,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't want to send that message out about Hatate and let his head drop, and again there'll be speculation if he drops him, isn't there? It'll be very negative, So I think these guys have earned the right to start in these domestic games. Europe's a different kettle of fish because there's a plan for Arne Engels, as we've seen. So as we've spoken about, so I'm happy with that, but I don't think that Hatate should be touched. I think he's under it. As I say, he was of the 3 midfielders that played against Rangers, he was third best, but he didn't play particularly badly, if you get what I mean. So
yeah,
and if you are going to rotate somebody then tomorrow, then it probably would be Hatate, but I think it'd be very grossly unfair if Rodgers did do that. And he's very big on his man management with players, isn't he? The way he goes about it, Rodgers. So I don't think he would do that to him.
I think my camera has frozen,
yeah.
so I'm going to refresh and go out and back in. Give me 2 wee seconds. See, while I'm doing that, would you be able to even just talk through my team? I'll just stick that onto the screen and I'll refresh the page. I'll be back in a wee minute, all right?
2 big calls, as you can see, Ryan's made there, guys. Trusty and Engels come into Ryan's team and hint into his thinking. As he's gone, but yeah, I'm inclined to disagree with that, but that's neither here nor there. That's Ryan's team. So you put in Trusty and Engels, didn't you? Yeah, there they are. Trusty you brought in for sales, and
I think that
Engels
actually took it off because I went off the stream for a minute there.
Yeah,
so
that's fine.
You would have been presenting something for about 5 seconds. This is a real humdinger of a show so far from the 2 of us. But yeah, I'm back. Hopefully that's working okay. Is it working okay on your end, Tony?
Yeah, it's fine. It's you're
all good.
2 big calls there, Ryan. Because Scales
Yeah.
has arguably been Celtic's best central defender since the start of the season, and Engels you're just bringing in because you want to see Engels play. I get that, but you're dropping the player who you say is the best midfielder at Celtic with your attack. So I think in terms of what people would want to know is explain yourself, sir.
Just want to see Engels. I want to see Celtic's £11 million player tomorrow afternoon. I'm quite keen on seeing him. I don't know where exactly he's going to play because he's played in the number 10 role to begin the season for Augsburg, but he's also played in the number 8 and the number 6 role. But the one thing about Celtic's midfield at this point in time is it's very fluid. So the two, even though a player will be in number 10 position, more often than not, you'll find them in the number 8 or the number 6 position because they'll be fluid all over the park. And they do their running and they do their pressing as well, both on the attacking side of things and counter pressing and in pressures when defending the ball. So it's going to be an interesting one to see who gets the nod tomorrow. Personally, I want to find a world in which Hatate and Engels can play in the same team, but I can't see Bernardo coming out of this team so far because he was so good against Rangers. He coupled that with a good performance for Portugal's under-21s against Croatia. I watched his goal the other day. That's good to see as well. Good to see he's get that international accolades as well. Definitely a player for the future, maybe for the Portuguese senior team, although he's got a bit of work before he gets into that team alongside Bernardo Silva, etc. Really good midfielders they've got, but good to see him in the under-21s team. So yeah, I've went for Trusty as well because I just want to see these new players. You know, you've got £17 million worth of players that could be on the bench tomorrow. It's crazy.
It's a long season, Ryan. You've got all season to see them. You will see them.
Well, Tony, it's been a long international break as well.
Yeah, I get that. But no, listen, it's your call. I just feel that he'll leave the winning team, and any tweaks being made, he'll do it for Europe. It's just my instinct. And I asked my father, who's a manager of amateur teams, right? He's my go-to, and I asked him what would he do, and he said he would keep the same team. So I was trying to get that, and I said, speak to me as a manager. And he spoke to me like that. He just said, look, I would keep the same team. And he said that he would, because he said, you know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Engels starts, both of it gets cropped. And everybody says, why did you put one domestic game and not keep him for Europe? So you run that risk, and you run that risk even if you bring them on for half an hour, right? I get all that too. So, but I'm of the opinion it ain't broke. They don't need fixed. They've done really, really well, and I think these guys have earned the right to start. And I'm good to Hatate in that. And I'm not having a go at Hatate by saying he was your third best midfielder against Rangers. I just thought Callum McGregor and Paulo Bernardo outshone him. There's no disgrace that he didn't have a poor game. I'm at pains to stress that, you know, because it's like, and also he'll be. I just think, I think Hatate is a kind of, a wounded animal type tomorrow. He'll be really disappointed not to feature for Japan. I just think sometimes, you know what, you manage that right. You say to Hatate, you know what, you go out there and whatever's in your mind, take it out on there. Go and do what you do best. You know, you can bring Engels in, you know, integrate him slowly. But I think Wednesday night has his big centre stage for Celtic. That's why he was brought, because I think the manager's got a game plan in mind. And he said today that he hasn't thought about Slovan Bratislava. He's had a look at a couple of games. He's thought about them, don't you kid yourself, right? It's that outward, one game at a time. Hearts is the next challenge, yada yada. You'll be like, guys, bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? It's, as I said this morning about the overload of information and different messages. They'll have spoken about Slovan Bratislava. It's the most important game of the three coming up in this next 8 days. Can't outwardly say that, but you and I know it is, because you want to get your campion off the flyer. But tomorrow's the challenge ahead. And I think domestically, the team that started against Rangers is good enough to get themselves or manoeuvre themselves into a position where they'll win all 3 points against Hearts at some point, and you can bring in the likes of Austin Trusty, Engels, because with a mindset that they might be starting against Slovan Bratislava. It's just my thoughts. Your thoughts differ. You're bringing in Engels and Austin Trusty tomorrow, so interesting to see what he does. But that's why he gets £3 million a year, Ryan, or in excess of £3 million a year, and we're on £3.80 each, aren't we? Something like that. Yeah.
Let me just do a wee switcheroo, 2 seconds. 1, 2, bang. So I'm back in the hosting duties now. That's what happens when you leave the stream midway through because your camera stops working inexplicably. Go on to Brendan Rodgers now. Brendan Rodgers' press conference. Another good one. But different because he wasn't talking about transfers or anything like that. I want to talk about I think the main point is on the 2 fullbacks, and that's the reason why I made it the headline for this show today, because both fullbacks have been spoke about in glowing terms actually from Brendan Rodgers, which is really saying something to the leadership qualities of both the manager and those those players involved, because he obviously sees a lot of leadership qualities in those players, which is brilliant to see. Yeah, on Alistair Johnson, he says that there's not been anything new with regards to his contract. I think that's a bit of a stock answer, to be honest. I think there has been talk between the manager or his reps or the players' reps in the club. I think that's something that'll be happening in the background. Wouldn't surprise me if that gets done in the next month or so. And that's not based on anything. It's just the way that he loves playing for Celtic, and he'll probably want to get a better wage for doing what he does, because I think his importance to the team would be justified in that regard. And then for Greg Taylor, there hasn't been anything new, but Brendan Rodgers is desperate to sign him on a new deal. Pretty much positive stuff on both fronts. If Greg Taylor wants to leave, it'll be because of him and not because of the manager, because the manager clearly wants to keep him.
Yeah, I don't think for a minute they'll let Greg Taylor leave the football club. He's a big, powerful voice in there, Ryan. And also, let's not forget, he's a Scottish voice too. These guys, go back to it, these guys are worth their weight in gold. Gordon Strachan always spoke about being a good teammate. I think Greg Taylor's one of the best teammates you can get. And we've had dealings with him press-wise, and he's a cracking guy. He comes across really, really well. And he's a guy who you just think, do you know what? Unsung, I think, is the phrase, Ryan. And a kind of go-to boy for criticism. I'm not saying he's a whipping boy, because he's not, because I think a lot of people are now really appreciating what he does. But alongside the likes of Scales, he can be much maligned, and most of it's just down to his height, isn't it? His lack of inches when there's a long diagonal played to his side, and but that apart, that spell that he had under Ange Postecoglou when he was playing that inverted fullback, and he started to do it again under Brendan Rodgers. I think Brendan Rodgers realises he can utilise him there, because he's a former midfielder, and he's got an eye for a pass. He's got a real eye for a pass, and how many times has he set up goals? I mean, you look at the Rangers game. I mean, he just robs Czerny. He's got no right to get that ball. It's coming towards Czerny, and Czerny's a big, powerful guy. Should be knocking him off that. And he just shoves him out the road, doesn't he, as if he's not there. And then plays a lovely dink, a wee shunt into Kyogo, and it opens up all that space for Kyogo, who takes a touch and looks up and thinks, I've got oceans of space here, and curls a beauty into the bottom corner. But it's Greg Taylor that opened that all out, because, again, he's one of these guys who can quickly see a game in pictures when he gets it in that inverted full-back role, kind of in midfield. And he knows more. 9 times out of 10, when he gets it in that position, he knows where he wants to put it. And it's up to people to be on that wavelength. And he's very good at threading passes like that through, or opening up play like that. And I think a lot of that just is taken for granted. It doesn't go unnoticed per se, but Celtic supporters, I think a lot of them, especially when it comes to Greg Taylor and Liam Scales in particular as well, want to focus on negative stuff. And Tony Ralston mentioned it the other week or last week when I wrote about Tony Ralston as well. They home in and negatives where these guys go, but I think he's upped his game since Rodgers came in, because I think everybody wanted a new left back, didn't they? He's going to get a challenge from Alex Vai, and we'll see what he's made of as well further down the line. So, but you can't tell me that he's not worth a new deal. He's worth a new deal, isn't he? Come on.
Absolutely. Even to just protect your assets is what I said when Liam Scales got his deal. You don't want players running down their contracts. We've seen that on the other side of the city, what happens when you allow players to run down their contracts. Even when Celtic did it in the COVID season, their values depreciated, and you don't get as good a fee for a player if it's just all about values. But I think that Greg Taylor also deserves a contract for his contributions that he's made to the club. From the point that he'd signed his first one back in 2021, or his last contract rather, back in 2021 under Ange Postecoglou, and there was a lot of detractors at that point in time as well, moaning about the fact that Greg Taylor got a contract. That was before he'd really made his name for himself as an inverted fullback under the previous manager, but then he really did come into his own. And you're starting to see that this season as well. You're starting to see him going back to that style that suited them. It really did suit him. And he was arguably one of Celtic's best players in Ange Postecoglou's second season, and people forget that.
Yeah, I think he's maybe been given that licence, Ryan, by the manager.
He has, and Johnson plays as an out-and-out right back.
You know, and just say, right, look, trust your judgment on this. You know, and I think the manager said that. The thing that's pleased him most about this season is the players making on-the-field decisions. They're not looking to the side to constantly be coached. They're working it out for themselves. And I think he's taking Greg Taylor aside and said, look, work this out for yourself. When it's good to go, go. Support the midfield. Play those passes. Take risks when necessary, when you can. I'll never, probably never chide him for that. You know, it's when you're taking unnecessary risks and you're giving the ball away too cheaply. You know, the way he spoke about Hatate, gives it away too many times. I think he's clearly said to Greg Taylor, look, you know, don't get yourself in that situation where you're causing the team problems or causing your own teammates problems. But I want you to be that player because that's where you're most comfortable, marauding forwards, supporting the midfield, supporting the forwards, and helping setting up attacks and stuff when it's clearly good to do so. Because he's pretty switched on, Taylor. Because that was
he's an intelligent footballer, intelligent person.
Split second that he had to make up his mind, Ryan, what he was going to do with that after he won the ball from Czerny. And as I say, he's a lovely shunt into Kyogo, 2-0, game over, isn't it? Really, that's the killer goal, really, isn't it? You don't see Rangers coming back from that. Yeah, I mean, because it's right before half time as well, you know. So, and it's a desire and anticipating where the ball was going to go, but it's desire to win it because he's got no right to win it. Czerny stands a foot above him. He'd probably be stronger, wouldn't he? Strength wise, should have been out muscled by Czerny, but just decided my ball, I'm going to win that. Bang, Kyogo goal, and you're just thinking brilliant, and it's that kind of stuff that he brings. I really like Greg Taylor, and I'd be loath to see him depart the scene. Alistair Johnson's a no-brainer, isn't it? You want Alistair Johnson to stay for as long as he can. He's still got 3.5 years left on his current deal, and you know, I think it's testimony to the way he's come in and just embraced it and enjoyed it and loved it, and the high esteem that the Celtic fans hold him in. That he's playing arguably the best football of his career right now.
Yeah,
and he's adding goals. He's adding goals. He's assisting, and yeah, like you say, by having these talks, you're also protecting an asset too. But I think, I mean, you don't know what the future holds for Alistair Johnston, but I think he could be a guy that could be content fulfilling his footballing ambitions at Celtic. Could be wrong in that, but I think he's enjoying life, and personal happiness has a lot to do with footballers, and he's in a good moment in his life and career just now. So long may that continue.
Without a doubt. Was there anything else that stood out to you in the press conference today? Because I know that Brendan Rodgers spoke about a whole host of things, about Hearts, about the international break, about Callum McGregor looking amazing after an international break, which is quite a funny moment in the press conference to watch. That clip's already doing the rounds on social media, as you would expect. Was there anything else that really did jump out at you from Brendan Rodgers, or was it just all in, just a good press conference once again from a manager on top of his game?
I think he's just at the top of his game, isn't he? These things they're not a problem to him, Ryan. He doesn't see them as some managers see them as a necessary evil. He's very open, he's very honest. He can be cryptic at times. I've said that before. You know, he could decode his messages, but you just need to listen. But he's in a happy place. He keeps stressing the fact that Celtic are in a good place. And I think that's what you want to hear from your manager, isn't it? And he's not trying to pull the wool over your eyes and say that they're in a good place when they're clearly not. They are in a good place, but he wants to take them to a better place, and he wants to improve them and progress them and develop them. And that's why you're excited about this group. He was asked himself, he he was excited about the new players, and he said, yes, he was trying to keep a tin lid in it because he knows what these guys are capable of. He watches it every day in training, so he knows exactly the level that they can produce. He just needs them to go from Saturday and transition that onto the European stage, because that's the itch that needs scratch for Brendan Rodgers in terms of Celtic. And it's as I say, he gave it the one game at a time, but don't kid me on that he's no thought about Slovan Bratislava already.
I think we're all thinking about it as well, but we all need to focus on
It's
Hearts,
human
and I'm
nature.
sure we all will. Yeah. It's a big week though. 3 competitions. Ideally, you want Celtic to be in a good position for all 3 of those competitions by close of play next Sunday. Once Celtic versus Falkirk is finalised, and I don't see why not. To be honest, I think Celtic will get 3 wins out of 3 and score a few goals in doing so. I'm confident.
We were talking about that this morning, but the players, Callum McGregor and Rodgers mentioned it. They're thinking about the 6 block of games that's coming up. 6 before the next international break. So there's 3 at home and 3 away. Isn't that right? And you're saying to yourself, well, what happened to the one game at a time? They were talking about the next block of games, all 6. And to me, that seems as though they're targeting 6 wins. Nothing less. Anything else will be a disappointment to them. And it'll be a disappointment to themselves. But I guess it is the one game at a time stuff, isn't it? And it's that cliche, and it's why they've entered into the football lexicon. It is a cliche that we just take it one game at a time. But I think as a whole, Celtic are looking at the next block of 6 before the next international break and saying, right, let's win them all. Because they're confident enough and they're good enough to do it. But again, it's talking the talk and walking the walk, isn't it? But your next challenge is Hearts, and I'm always about not looking too far ahead. But what I do like is the fact that it's not phasing them, Ryan, what lies ahead, and they're not scared to address it. They'll take each game on its merit as a challenge, but they are kind of thinking, right, okay, where can we take this? Let's do this, and I quite like that confidence that they're exuding. That's coming out from both the manager and the players. I'm all for that.
Yep. Me too. Will we leave it at that, Tony? I know we've been going for about half an hour now. It'll be a very quick sort of off and then on again for tomorrow afternoon for the Hearts pre-match. Hope everybody that's joining us and those who are watching on repeat will join us at.
I'll also flag up. I'm not sure when it's going up, but myself and Kevin McKenna did the Grand Old Team episode 7. And it's entitled Celtic's Axis of Evil. It was Kevin McKenna's shout. They put him right in it. But basically, it's about the teams that Kevin doesn't really like. Hate's a strong word. But in order of preference, it's Racing Club of Argentina, Atletico Madrid of Spain, and Rapid Vienna of Austria. And myself and Kevin talk about them and the Celtic supporters' relationship with them, hence the Axis of Evil. But yeah, it's you'll enjoy that. So it's up to young Ryan there when he puts that out. It'll be some point over the weekend, maybe into next week. We'll see what happens. But yeah, there you go.
Watch this space, basically. The members will get that first whenever it comes out. I just want to give another wee quick shout out to somebody in the comments, Christopher Patterson, who was saying it's got nothing to do with Celtic. Can you give a shout out to my daughter Morgan and her partner, as they will be making me a granddad? Sorry, it's nothing to do with Celtic. Not at all. We can all celebrate another member of the Celtic way coming into the world, which is absolutely brilliant to see. Congratulations to Morgan and her partner. Absolutely. Yeah. All the best wishes go to those two, and enjoy every moment, basically. Tony, it's been a pleasure being on with you this evening. It's been a long day, but we've managed to get through it. Got more stuff coming on the website in the next few days, so keep your eyes peeled on that. Stuff on Luke McCowan, a piece on Rodgers from yourself that's coming out later on this evening, 10:30, I believe. Will it be 10:30 that's coming out? Yes, 10:30. So that's definitely something to look out for if you're a bit of a night hawk and you want some late night reading before the game the next day. That's if you can sleep, of course. I think everybody's quite excited about the game and what's going to happen tomorrow afternoon. Tony, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully everyone that's joining us here can join us tomorrow afternoon for the pre-match, and then later on in the evening for the post-match. Until then, thank you very much, guys. Have a good start to your weekend, and we will see you all tomorrow afternoon. Cheers, guys.